Hey everyone, back in the roasting workshop, and I thought that I would share with you a little bit of what's going on with something that you might run into if you ever try coffee roasting. It's something that's happened every once in a while for me, maybe every blue moon or maybe every third blue moon, right? And that is when you make the mistake of accidentally mixing green with roasted coffee. And as you can see here, the other day I was roasting and I totally made the mistake of putting my hand in the wrong position. And when I thought that it's time to drop a load out of the roaster, I dropped a fresh load into the roaster while coffee was still in there, resulting in this mess. Now this coffee is pretty much done with. We would normally just dump it out because it's, what are you going to do with it? It's like you're totally hosed. Now the thing is, you can sit people that when this first happens to you, and you're doing this, you're like, oh, I can pick it all out, and you start to sit there and you start to sort it out, and you try to pick all and separate the green from the roasted. Let me tell you, there's nothing more miserable than trying to separate roasted and green coffee, especially on larger batches. And I mean larger batches, anything above 100 grams would be a large batch. That would be misery to do that to. But since, we're kind of intrepid souls, I thought that, let me save this. I'm not going to toss it out. I mean, it's such a waste to toss it out. But let's roast it, see what we can do to roast this coffee, and who knows what's going to happen. So you can see here, we've got this coffee that's roasted. These are the two same coffees. These are a Brazilian coffee, a coffee called the Wajupe. And these are a nice, really nice cacao tasting coffee. And as you can see, this is our normal roast for kind of a light medium roast. We're normally going about 20 to 30 seconds past the end of first crack. I was just at the point of dumping the roasted beans out when I put my hand in the wrong place. And what I mean by putting my hand in the wrong place is that this is where you have the beans. And this is the lever that you push up in order to release the coffee and put it into the drum. This is what you pull up on in order to let the coffee fall out into the cooling tray. I was talking with Matt, we're in the middle of a discussion, and I just happened to be sitting here with my hand on the thing, because normally I will pop this door open, let the coffee fall out, and then once it equalizes and returns to close this back up, reach the temperature, and then pull the lever to let the coffee in. But I was watching the time, I was watching the temperature, I was watching the color, and suddenly I noticed, okay, it's time to pull. And instead of dropping my hand down here, I just lifted it, and the coffee just starts to drop in, and I'm like, oh God. Pop the door open, let it all fall out. And I was, guilty of making one of the greatest blunders that all coffee roasters will do at some point in their career. The really bad roasters like myself tend to do it more than once in their career. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go and look at how to see if we can salvage it. Let's have a look at this. Okay, as you can see here, we've got the coffee, and what we're going to do is we're going to roast this coffee together. 397. Okay, I gotta dump this out. Let's dump this out first. All of this is just disaster waiting to happen. Disaster lurks at every turn in the coffee roastery. Fire, coffee spilling, coffee getting contaminated, burning stuff, anything of bad. It's always bad in the roastery. You lose track, 7 minutes, 38 seconds. We're at 415. We're almost done. This coffee has to come out now. So we're not going to dump all the coffee. We're just going to dump this coffee out. 419, boom. We're running at 5 bars. So let's bring it down. We're going to bring it down to let's go 3.5 bars, or 3.5 column inches of water. And that's going to be our next one. We're going to heat the drum up to 430 degrees. But I got to get the stick out. Let's get the stick out. We put this stick in here to hold the door open so that the coffee can fall out, so I don't have to sit here holding this open the whole time. That really sucks. 419. Oh, actually, what I need to do is I'm going to keep this open so that it doesn't get superheated. And let's get back to explaining what's going on here. So we got the coffee. These coffees were roasted several days ago. Or this one coffee was roasted several days ago, but now it's had the time to cool down so that both coffees are at the same temperature now. So they're equilibrium in temperature. And the idea is I'm going to put them in the roaster and roast them at probably a normal rate of speed or rate of rise, and reheat the coffees. Now these coffees will rise in temperature in unison because of the same temperature. This coffee, the green, should roast kind of normally. Whereas this coffee, the roasted, may take on baked notes because we're really, it's almost as though we're extending the roast. But what we're going to do is we're going to take these coffees, we're going to roast it, do it on the live stream. Here's the live stream. Do a live tasting where we can compare this coffee and see how bad it is. How much of a bad impact does this kind of thing have, the re-roasting idea, to the coffee? All right, so let's take this and put this in the roaster. This particular batch is what, about 7 pounds. We're going to hopefully make it work, and let's get to it. All right, now let's put this out. This coffee is cooling down. Good. Now we lowered our column inches of heat application to about 3.5 because we have a much lower amount of coffee. So it's going to roast a lot faster, right? Because this is a big roaster. It's a 6-kilo roaster. We're putting 3 kilos more or less of coffee in, so it's going to go pretty fast. So we want to be careful with that and keep that in mind. We need to reset our timer here. Now we're going to wait for it to heat up. We're at 386 degrees here on the bean probe. I like to start it right around 430 degrees, and then we should be good to go. One of the reasons I want to make sure that we're careful with the start temperature is that because we are running smaller batches, it kind of gets a little bit wonky. All right, so we're at 433. 431. Okay, 431. Let's close the door and begin. Hit the start button on the timer. Great. We always record our start times, or at least 4:30. I don't know what start time is, but we're going to worry about that later. All right, so the coffee's on its way. The coffee's in and rolling, and we're just going to see what happens. What the idea is, we're going to do is bring it pretty much the same color and finish temperature as the previous, as half of the coffee, and hopefully that'll give us some decent results. At least one that won't, have me grimacing too much on the live stream. Okay, and as you can see, we're about 1:10 into it, and the coffee has dropped down to 338 degrees. And here's a weird thing. Look at this. The gas is off. The gas is off because for some reason, this Gießen likes to shut off every once in a while. No real rhyme or reason. It just shuts off and it restarts. So it doesn't really affect the temperature curve. So I got to talk to the guys at Gießen more. Okay, so this previous batch is ready. So we're going to drop it open and let that fall out. Want to make sure that this tray is empty so we don't get contamination between the batches. At least between the coffees. This is the regular Washu bib, and this is the messed up Washu bib. We are now 2 minutes into it. We're at 329 degrees. The temperature has fallen a little bit more. And as you can see, it's still green, but the green coffee is starting, and I see it's looking like it's starting to yellow. So we've got good application and heat. Although we're only at 2 minutes, 30 seconds, I think that we need to come down a little bit more in the temperature, because it's really kind of, if we're at 2 minutes 30 seconds, that means that we're already getting to yellow. But 3 minutes, we're about a minute ahead of our curve. Ideally, I would like to see the yellowing of the coffee happening around the 4-minute mark. So there's a couple milestones. We want to see the turn, the farthest bottom turn of the temperature, about 1 minute 30 seconds, and then 4 minutes for the yellowing, and then first crack right around 9 minutes. This may go a lot faster because there's less mass of the pre-roasted coffee to heat up than the regular roasted coffee, right? Because the greater density, because higher moisture content in the unroasted coffee, the green coffee, than there is in the pre-roasted coffee. So here's the window. You can look at the window and see. Yeah, now it's starting to get a little more brown, a little more tan. I don't know if that smells good or not. Okay, that's done. Turn this off. Okay. There we go. A little more brown coming along. We're about 4 minutes into it, so we're definitely going pretty fast. We're going to have a pretty fast roast, and we're still running it at 2.5 now. I think I'm going to maybe turn it down a little. Let's go to 2. Now, there's so much heat in the machine that the relatively small quantity of coffee that's in the machine is being overwhelmed. So the more heat that you apply to it from the flame, the faster it will go. And you don't want it to go too fast, right? Like, you want it to be controlled. You want to hit certain milestones. That way you get good and proper roast development. But we're kind of losing control of that to begin with. We're now at 390 degrees, 4 minutes 56 seconds. So we're rotating pretty fast. We're starting to hear first crack. Like we are flying. This is actually bad. This is bad. This is bad. There's first crack is happening here. Look at that, out of control. We are now at 401. 5 minutes 20 seconds, and we are pretty much out of control now. We are almost out of control. Look at that roast development really fast. The danger here is that if you don't pay attention to what you're doing and like lose track of it, you could fly all the way until ignition. We're almost there. I'm looking for 420. Oh, that's looking pretty good. 411. 4:15, we're at 5 minutes 56 seconds. So crazy speed. 4:17. We're gonna drop now. 4:19. 4:19, 6:06. Oh my gosh, look at that craziness. That was super fast. All right. So we're like at 6 minutes, 20 some seconds, or 6 minutes, 18 seconds. I mean, you can definitely see the unevenness between the coffees. Some of them are under roasted. So you can definitely see the difference here between the coffees. You know, it's kind of the nature of the beast when it comes to this kind of thing. This is also the danger. Like you saw how fast it was, 6 minutes, which is nowhere near the amount of time that I would like to see it. Like the fastest I would really like to see this kind of roast happening would be maybe 9.5 to 10, 15 at the fastest. So 6:15 is like super blazing. And also one of the things you want to consider, or when you're roasting, is that you don't want to, especially with something like this, you don't want to lose track of the roast. A lot of times I'll sit down and chill and listen to a podcast, watch some videos, or do something. But in this kind of situation, you got to really be careful because you've got a small batch of coffee in the roaster and a very big roaster that's already well heated. It's very easy to at 6 minutes, we're at 420 degrees. At 7 minutes, we could be near 500. You get to those temperatures and the risk of fire becomes very, very real. So if you just happen to lose track, and you come back and you're like, oh my gosh, it's like 500, 550 degrees. What do I do? If that's the case, turn off your flame and do nothing and just leave it. Unless it actually blows up on you, don't do anything. Do not open the door. If you open the door when your coffee is 500, 600 degrees, this will be a FAFO situation and you will find out in very clear terms that you have effed up. The coffee will come out, the machine will probably explode, meaning that there'll be an explosion, not that the machine will explode apart. These are fairly robust, but you'll get this explosion, your coffee will ignite and light on fire, and it'll be kind of pandemonium, and if you're not prepared for it, you could be in serious trouble. That happened to me a few years back. I lost track of what was going on, turned around, and at the roastery, we're running on Celsius, so it was like, what's the equivalent? It was 330 Celsius. And I was looking at it, I was like, well, turn off the flame. And I don't know what I was thinking. I just totally flaked on it. I totally maybe I was panicking. Popped the door open. Man, the whole thing exploded. Blew apart some of the stack. Flames were coming out of the tray, the drip tray, the cooling tray. We had a cyclone for the chaff. And it's all fan based, so it's blowing fan through the cyclone, and flames, like a cyclonic flame of jet fuel is flying out of the cyclone. The top of the cyclone had blown apart. The pipe that ran to the ceiling blew off. It blew apart. So now it's shooting, and the flames are hitting the ceiling. And I was like, and this is February 2008. We had just finished building this roastery the month before. Brand new roastery. And I was like, oh, this whole place is going to burn down. But that's why I'm saying, make sure you understand where all of your fire extinguishers are. I did not use a fire extinguisher. I had a water hose situated very nearby, and I was able to use that to do the quenching of the burning coffee. And you just got to keep those things in mind. Where's your fire gear? Where do you have a water source? You can use things like halon and all of these other type of fire retardant materials. Those kind of either way, if you get a fire situation, you've got to attack it with water or some kind of fire retardant spray or extinguisher. You are going to be in a situation where you're going to have to tear apart the roaster and rebuild it. Almost no way around that. just because you want to make sure that all the seals and everything are still in good shape. So you could hit it with either, but I think that if you can do the water, it's better because the cleanup is easier, right? Water evaporates, whereas fire retardant powders they're over everything. Here's our coffee. Now it's fully cooled. We're going to taste it in an upcoming live stream, so see you next time.